We tend to overlook moths in favor of their more familiar cousins, the butterflies. We think of moths as drab and dull, or as pests. But most moths are beautiful, fascinating, and highly beneficial as pollinators and as vital links in the food web. Moths are closely related to butterflies, but may be a little harder to appreciate and understand because many of them only fly at night. A few moths fly during the day, and they can be mistaken for butterflies. A few others look and behave like hummingbirds. Moths usually have fatter, fuzzier bodies than butterflies. And look at the antennae. Moth antennae are often hair-like or feathery. Butterflies have a knob or club on the tip of each antenna, and most skippers have a hook at the tip. The world of moths is full of marvelous creatures, from the tiny moths known as micromoths, to the skinny, spiky plume moths, to the big underwings with their camouflaged forewings and boldly marked hind wings. Moths are worthy of our appreciation. There are about 15 times more moth species than butterflies. About 12,000 species of moths have been found in North America, and only about 800 species of butterflies. Moths and their caterpillars are important parts of the food web. They're parasitized by many types of wasps and flies, and they are eaten by a wide array of other animals, from tiny shrews and mice to bats, grizzly bears, foxes, all sorts of birds, spiders, frogs, ants, beetles, and even dragonflies. Moths are some of our most important pollinators, visiting flowers all night when the bees, flies, and butterflies are resting. Their coiled tube-like proboscis allows them to sip nectar from flowers while their fuzzy bodies hold and transport pollen. Moths are actually better pollinators of some flowers than bees are. A moth starts life as a tiny egg and hatches into a larva or caterpillar. The caterpillar will shed its skin 5 to 9 times as it eats and grows larger. Then it pupates. Moths go through the same process of complete metamorphosis as butterflies do. While butterflies pupate in a chrysalis, moths go to the extra effort to create a cocoon to protect their pupal case. The cocoon is made from silk, spun from the moth's salivary glands, with hairs or plant material embedded in it. It forms a tough and resilient case. We often think of the pupal stage as resting, but just the opposite is true. In the pupal stage, the caterpillar is completely transforming. All its body tissues are being rearranged to form the adult moth. A pupa looks like a little mummy, but there's a lot of action going on in there. This pupa hatched a few days later. The empty pupal case was left behind by this moth. Many moths spend all winter in their cocoons, but parasites and predators take a toll. This Cecropia cocoon is made of silk. You can tell by the hole in the side that a parasite has created an opening into the cocoon. Inside was only this empty pupal case. The Cecropia was completely consumed by the larval parasite. During the summer, metamorphosis can complete in 1 to 2 weeks. Then, if all goes well, the moth hatches. As the adult moth emerges, its wings unfold, stretch out, and harden. This giant leopard moth took about an hour to expand to its full size and be ready to fly. Some adult moths only live a few days, just long enough to mate and lay eggs. The giant silk moths don't even have functioning mouthparts as adults. Their adult life is brief, no more than a week. They live just on the nutrients that their caterpillar consumed before pupation. Caterpillars and moths are often camouflaged, so they are harder for predators to find, catch, and eat. Some resemble bark, lichens, dead leaves, green leaves, or twigs. A fringe of hair can blur the line between the caterpillar's body and the surface that it's on, making it harder to detect. Some caterpillars and moths have horns or eye spots to make them look scary to a predator. These eye spots might look enough like the eyes of an owl to discourage another predator. Or a caterpillar might look like a dead stem or a leaf. Some moths mimic other things that are inedible, like a bird dropping, or they look like something well defended. This squash vine borer moth looks and acts like a wasp. Bright colors often warn a predator that a caterpillar or moth is poisonous or tastes bad. The milkweed tussock moth feeds only on milkweeds. Like the monarch butterfly, it stores the toxic compounds from the milkweed in its body and advertises that it is poisonous with bright colors. Some moth caterpillars are covered with long hairs that make it hard for a parasite to get to their skin, or they're covered with needles, or they have stinging bristles to keep predators and parasites away. There are caterpillars that roll up in a leaf to hide. Some others build a tent made of silk to shelter the whole colony. These caterpillars paste bits of plant material to their own bodies for camouflage. Some moths can hear the ultrasonic calls emitted by bats. Those calls trigger a reflex action in the moths, so they suddenly drop a few inches and then fly erratically to evade attack. Even more amazing, tiger moths can emit their own clicks to foil bats' echolocation. It's easy to dismiss moth caterpillars as pests or to ignore the drab and dull-looking moths without considering the entire life cycle of each species. Take a look at this somewhat dull moth. Its caterpillar is one of our most beloved insects, the woolly bear. This caterpillar is kind of funny looking, but it becomes a beautiful Pandora's sphinx. When you're cleaning up your garden, remember that many moths and cocoons spend the winter in the leaf litter. Leave the leaves. Fallen leaves and plant debris are nature's own mulch and a layer of protection for the moth eggs, cocoons, and other dormant insects hiding there. Moths are famous for being attracted to lights, so attracting them can be as easy as leaving on a porch light. Then they can be photographed and examined. But then turn off the light when you're finished. Remember that the increasing use of outdoor lighting has led to severe declines in moth populations and has disrupted nocturnal pollination. Moths congregate around outdoor lights and exhaust themselves. By morning, many are dead, and the rest are quickly eaten by birds. And bug zappers used outdoors are especially deadly to them. The beautiful imperial moth has almost disappeared from this area, likely due to outdoor lighting. A few moths are actually pests to us humans. Cupboard moths, clothing moths, gypsy moths. But all moths are vulnerable to insecticide sprays and pesticides. Attempts to control the few that are pests can do tremendous damage to all the others that are beautiful, beneficial, and important parts of our environment. We often talk about planting a butterfly garden or a pollinator garden. How about planting a moth garden? Many flowers that bloom at night are pale colored and fragrant so that moths can easily find them. Some moth-pollinated flowers only bloom at night. In your moth garden, you could relax on summer evenings and enjoy the gentle wings of the night while relishing the same flowers as these marvelous moths.